Our question is, how do management policies affect carbon sequestration and output/loss in peatlands in the Kenai Peninsula? And I'm Violet Kemperman.
I'm Lydia Hummel.
I'm Ellie Bush.
And I am Ethan Gertz.
Of Alaska's entire surface area, wetlands take up about 43% of that area, totaling this many acres. Some wetlands are special because they create the perfect atmosphere for plant material to accumulate in wet conditions, so they never fully decompose. These special wetlands are called peatlands. The slow decomposition in these lands accumulate a layer of partly decayed organic material called peat. Part of the reason why peatlands are so important is because they store large amounts of carbon. According to the University of Plymouth, peatlands are among the most carbon-rich ecosystems on Earth, storing twice as much carbon as the world's forests. We think it's important to research carbon sequestration in order to try and mitigate climate change, as well as try to conserve biodiversity in these areas as many rare and endangered species make their homes here. Or a lot of carbon, but when that carbon store more carbon than any other type of vegetation types in the world, but if they're damaged, they can release the greenhouse gases. Because if you think about it, peatlands, they're just sitting there and they're sequestering carbon, and then people drain the peatland, and then when it's drained or damaged in any way, that carbon that's been sitting there gets released into the atmosphere, and that's bad. So other threats may include draining for agriculture. What, Ethan?
They store carbon. Sequester is the rate of which
they sequester carbon as well, but they're storing it, and that's what matters. Was that good? It's increasingly important to recognize threats to peatlands so that we can try and stop them. And some threats include agriculture, peat extraction, forestry, as well as threats from just climate change or wildfires. The 1972 Federal Clean Water Act protects the nation's chemical, physical, and biological health of the United States surface waters. This includes wetlands, which also includes peatlands, so you need a specific permit to drain these sites.
Beavers are a nature-based solution for reducing the drying of peatlands. The dams that beavers provide preserve wetlands, improve water quality, and reduce floods. They also create habitat for salmon, trout, and moose. However, beavers have been heavily trapped and hunted, leading to some regions to be left without beavers. Proposal 160 is a legislative proposal made by the Kachemak Bay Conservation Society to limit beaver trapping in the Kenai Peninsula and around Alaska. The proposal will limit beaver trapping to 1 beaver per lodge, which is a structure made of sticks and mud. This is a carefully crafted proposal to allow beaver trapping to continue but try to prevent overtrapping. It has been tested in the Kenai National Wildlife Refuge to good effort. Salmon are culturally important to Alaska and the Kenai Peninsula, and the Kenai Peninsula is one of the most reproductive regions for salmon habitat and spawning. One of the most important habitats for spawning salmon is peatlands. They provide carbon inputs for stream ecosystems and regulate groundwater temperatures. In the state of Alaska, Salmon and People Group provides a regional ecosystem-based understanding of salmon habitat, so policymakers will be able to better make informed decisions and increase community stewardship for the landscape and result in greater salmon resilience.
Cage. It's not good. So why do peatlands store so much carbon?
It slows down the rate of decomposition.
Yeah, that's right. So with climate change, we don't really know, the experts don't necessarily know if it's going to get wetter, but we can all agree that it's going to get warmer. And we don't necessarily know how that's going to feed back with precipitation inputs, but I think we can all agree that it's going to get weirder. And increased variation in precipitation has been shown to increase mineralization, which is a fancy word for the activity of the critters in the soil, the fungi and the bacteria. And when they get hungrier and more active, they're blowing through more organic matter. So.
On the topic of climate change, since 2021, the global temperatures have risen 3 degrees. This has resulted in mass permafrost thaw in peatlands located in the Kenai Peninsula across the globe. Permafrost thaw refers to the
process of frozen ground, which has remained frozen at below 0 degrees Celsius for at least 2 consecutive years, melting due to rising temperatures. What this does to climate change is permafrost thaw adds to the release of carbon, which is a greenhouse gas, which further induces climate change. Furthermore, this has led to an overwhelming shift in vegetation, wildlife habitat, and precipitation cycles in the area. Solutions they're looking at are locals are meeting together every single week to discuss what they can do, and overall there are methods like wildlife suppression and improving forest management practices in the area.
Alright. Peat bogs are complex ecosystems with multiple layers. The upper surface is more similar to the forest floor, where aerobic respiration occurs. Below the surface is a water-saturated layer with reduced respiration and microbial activity, leading to slower decomposition rates. This slower decomposition rate leads to a buildup of peat and other organic material that has yet to be decomposed. Underneath this saturated layer is a gaseous layer that is stuck beneath the hydraulic head of the above saturated layer. This gaseous layer can be broken by flood or physical disturbance. Once this occurs, this can lead to the release of significant amounts of methane and carbon dioxide. Apart from the storage of gaseous methane, peat bogs also store large amounts of carbon within the peat, an organic matter in the saturated layer.